Welcome to Heal, Educate, Motivate, bringing to you a panel of friends who discuss about everyday life.
Hi everyone, welcome to Heal, Educate, Motivate. It is I here, Murakai, with my good buddy here, Burmz. Okay, and we are in the discussion of optimism and pessimism. And this section is about how your perspectives are shaped by nature or nurture. So one aspect is from an environmental influence, and the other one is more inclined to DNA memory, which some circles don't understand yet, and we can go from that. Okay, Burmz, I would like to ask you a question. Okay, what was it like growing up as a young teenager in your household? Because a lot of people out there, they have similar experiences to you. Yeah. So what was it like? Your mother, father, they had. So yeah, please share.
Okay, well, I usually look at things how, I think, from my experience, like, negative experiences have more impact on one's life than positive. It's like, in my experience, I think people can be affected from negative
this is a very universal thing, I've realized. Yeah.
That's what shapes somebody's perspective so much, because it's even though a great experience, a positive experience can be very joyful and impactful, the joy, sometimes the pain can be stronger, like, because it makes you think and you kind of like get affected by the negatives experiences. But I think I was really loved by my mom very much, and dad, of course. But like, my parents divorced when I was at 6 years old, so in that case, like, in my situation, I moved with my mom to live with my mom. I had to leave my dad, but my mom was always very loving to me. It put me in a situation where it was like, okay, I'm gonna protect my mom no matter what. This is survival.
It's very primal, isn't it? It's very raw, isn't it? Especially at that young age.
A child's protection of their mom or parents is quite strong.
Of course.
Even for a daughter, the daughters protect their dads even like more too.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like mother and son, father and daughter kind of dynamics, something happening like that.
It could be either way, I guess. It depends, but I think, yeah, definitely mom and son are very close. Mom will always nurture a boy maybe more. That's a natural inclination, isn't it?
And how you said about the survival factor.
Oh yeah, because my parents were divorced, and I felt like, people were really kind of picking on my mom maybe, and so I was always just there like, don't mess with my mom, like, I'm gonna protect her forever, and I'll give my life for that. She gave me life, so whoever gets in that way is gonna feel the wrath. So she was very affectionate, made me very affectionate. Like, I have no fear of affection, or like, just
just hugging,
and
all the people,
or anyone, like, open and
interesting. And
yeah,
I remember you touched on before. Everyone here, we did a previous podcast, and that just didn't come out very well.
Yeah, your mic was off.
Actually,
we recorded the whole thing, and then
we were like 20 minutes in in the podcast.
I was like,
and we made a little mistake, and we just realized that my microphone was off.
Yeah.
Like, just out of nowhere.
So it's just a whole 20 minutes of
it was all 20 minutes of talking.
Yeah.
But I loved how Burmz touched on Like he's touchy feely. He wants to like cuddle his friends.
Because I've known you for a long time, right? And even you back in the day, I think there was we had a friend, an acquaintance that was a female, and then like.
Oh, do you remember that? Yeah,
I think
yes,
you told me
yes.
that.
Okay, so yeah, I was walking down this particular street. Okay, and
That we would normally be walking down.
I'll be walking on the right, and Burmz
Walking in streets.
and Burmz was walking with me, and there's a lady friend that we know of that's sort of like associated with our particular group. And the Burmz came up to her and says, "Oh, you're so beautiful, give me a hug." And Burmz gave her this nicest hug. And I'm thinking, "Oh, that's nice," but the girl had this look on her face like, "What's going on?" She had this the impression was like, "What's happening?
It was a bit awkward.
What's
for
happening?"
her.
I thought it was brilliant. I liked it. and Burmz was also touching. Burmz was also discussing how he's touchy-feely, and he's like he would like to go up to a stranger and just touch him on the shoulder, right? Yeah, he said that you can't do that in the Western society.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
like having that openness, and it's good. There's no ill or like.
There's no ill intent. Right?
There's no ill intent. No, you're not. I'm not trying to be a creep or anything.
No.
Or feel anybody up.
Yeah,
in the wrong
no,
way.
exactly. It's not done in that kind of manner. And I was explaining before that I had this Bangladeshi friend. So I was at work and there was a Bangladeshi friend, and I went to the bathroom, used the urinal, and he came up next to me and he used the urinal as well, and then he places his right hand on my left shoulder. And I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And, but the thing is, the Bangladeshi culture is they're very open and they hold hands, and he even told me that Bangladesh is one of the most happiest countries in the world, and they're like that in their society, and
Yeah.
that's their nature aspect, their environmental aspect, and also it can be nature as well because it's happening in that particular section on our planet. Yes.
Happiest country in the world, and then a lot of people there are not wealthy. They're lacking in wealth, but they make up for it in just joy and pure love.
So there is that economic what's the distance? Economic distance
There's a
between
there's a gap.
There's a gap, but they're all happy.
They are all happy. Like
4 seconds. Yes, and you had that beautiful trip to India, the Buddhist
yes, the it's kind of like a Buddhist pilgrimage.
Yes.
Where we were traveling by train, and you could see all walks of people. There were some people walking around with no limbs and on the ground, and still like they're so kind. Everybody was really like overly nice, and they just had this. You can feel the energy of joy.
The joy and love, yeah.
And it's like even with such low wealth, they were so happy and like.
And what was on the pilgrimage? What was the key?
So we went. So the first, because it's divided. But the Buddha was then India, but now is Nepal. So that was, you saw his birthplace where there was a palace where he lived with. It's so long ago now that it's nothing now. It's like I don't think if you look at it, it wasn't really anything significant, but not that I remember much. But my main point is that
The environment and the love and
you got the Eiffel Tower, you have the Colosseum, all these landmarks around the world. They actually mean nothing to me. It's when I meet these people full of that pure joy of when you are young, you hold on to that compassion and loving. And our tour guide was amazing. Like, we're still in contact with our tour guide until now, and she's calling me Sonny, and it's like, oh, it's
beautiful.
It's like a connection. I really don't want to go anywhere on the earth apart from there to have that human interaction.
That's true. That's so true. There's a lot of countries out there which is in a similar situation, and they live day to day, and they smile and they're happy. They live a very simple life, farm a bit, make some bread, do a little bit of hunting, gathering, and they love it. It's simple life and it's beautiful. And we have people in the Western world where they look at that and they think, oh, look at them, they don't have much, they don't have a TV, they don't have a car, they don't have a motorbike.
No
It's terrible.
phone.
It's terrible how they live.
Yeah,
But in
no
reality, they're just fully living their lives as they live and know of it. You see, and sometimes that could be something very hard to be grasped by the others in different types of societies. I'm saying Western societies because we're so deeply into materialism and things. But I use the word things. But yeah, so because in the Western society we're just so like immersed with advertising and all that sort of stuff, all that beautiful stuff also. But to compare it to the simpler countries, you can call them third world, but they're not. You can't like truly insult them in a certain way. I mean, like, they live simpler, yes, but doesn't mean they have no intelligence either way. And that doesn't mean that they're dumb or anything like that. And just because we use the word third world doesn't necessarily have to be like, like third world. So this was definitely a topic on what shapes your perspective, nature and nurture. And as I spoke with Burmz about his growing up and his well-being while growing up, and myself personally, I grew up in Australia. So I was five years old here, and even although I was Persian, I've said that, and I don't speak in a Persian accent or anything like that, or like Maz Jabani, he's like really Irani, like Persian. And while I was growing up, I grew up in Canley Vale at one point, and I remember being indoctrinated. I remember I was thrown into primary school. I think it was primary school, and the first day my mother took me to primary school, I had no idea what was going on, and I was in the school, I was in the classroom, and I was so upset. I'm like, no, where have you left me, Mom? No. Zoom out, birds flying. No, zoom out, birds flying from trees. So I did have that kind of nature experience. And it was tough for the first few days, but later on I just got used to it. Okay, and in the class wasn't really difficult to understand, but there was. So when I started in the primary school, actually let's hold this for 1 second, because this section is considering nature and nurture, and some people might be a little bit confused which one is which one. Even I get confused too. So nature is as like the pre-wiring and influenced by genetic markers as you're born into this world, and nurture is practically the influence or external factors that affects a person in an environmental situation. You get that, Burmz?
Yep.
Yeah. So, for example, nature could be like the color of your genes, like your skin color, pigmentation, certain hereditary kind of allergies, conditions, something. Yep. And nurture is like the schooling system and or social statuses, social systems. And yeah, you got that bit?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. So practically, in my situation, being taken to primary school, I think it was primary school, and that is classified as the nurture.
So, what do you think are some examples of nature that have influenced you or shaped your perspective towards optimism or pessimism?
I mean, like, some could say that certain mental health could be genetics, but I'm not really an advocate, because I feel, and we feel, that certain people who enter this planet, they have the basic OS, the basic operating system, some IT analogy, but as they evolve later on through their life, they can have access to genetic information. Okay. They can have access to disease, but the human bloodline has a lot of stuff within it, which today's modern science is not seeing the whole pictures, because there's more things within our genetics than which people can assume on a general scientific reference.
I can give you a pretty good example, I think. There's a few that I can think of, but I haven't really explored the idea that deeply. But just thinking about it then briefly, I thought, okay, one, I'm an asthmatic, right? So that kind of like changes my perspective on my day-to-day. I have to take medication for that, right? And it's been my whole life. So I know that I need to prepare for that. So it changes my day-to-day perspective possibly, you know? I have to take that preventative to not have an attack or not suffer through the day, right? With the allergy. Another thing is that I don't know, there's either this is an early genetic thing or to do with my current medical situation, but I've always attracted mosquitoes, right?
Oh, I've noticed.
Yeah, so I know, is that optimism or pessimism? Because I know that in a day that I'm gonna get bit. If it's the summertime, I know the mosquitoes will come for me. So I have to prepare the day.
Maybe you're pessimistic and you have like one of those signs on your back. Bite me, mosquitoes, bite me.
Yeah, I think so. Are they attracted to fear? Can they smell the fear? Is it like a dog when it?
I'm sure they did like a few tests and experiments on why mozzies prefer one blood type over the other. I don't remember the outcome.
That too. So that's a nature.
That's interesting.
Those are two nature examples that I can think of.
I mean, our audience
that changed my perspective.
So people out there, listen. What we're discussing, please feel free to Google it and research it on your own. So,
if you have any information, post the link up in the comments, or any information that you know, like references. We'll be happy to check them out for ourselves, and maybe we might look into that more in future podcasts.
There is this factor called genetic memory or DNA memory, and as I was studying metaphysics throughout the years, I learned that the human body's DNA system and the cellular memory system acts like it's got like a compilation or like a database of various illnesses, and practically your well-being or day-to-day emotional fluctuations or mind health situations, we tend to turn off the diseases off and on, like those switchboards they had back in the days where the operator takes one switch to another switch. So one of the genetic DNA memories is we tend to turn off these certain diseases, and we turn on other types of diseases, and the fluctuations of your presence can really get into trouble. but health factor too as well. So let's say there's someone in your family bloodline, Burmz, that's a master musician. Okay, you can access that through your genetics. Of course, you have to do the prime, learn how music
Basics,
works.
foundation.
Yes, but because you have the genetic memory of an
creativity,
which is quite a musician, you can quickly access that. Okay, and sometimes some circles will say we have genetic markers of aliens too in our DNA. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. so yeah. But when you tend to see a few people in our society, they're just so switched on, they're so clever, they're accessing that part of their DNA which is quite advanced and evolved as well. Okay everyone, we have definitely went over the limit for this podcast. We will continue it in the next one. And you want to quickly say anything here, Burmz?
Oh, thank you once again for tuning in. We're happy to be back. And make sure you like, share and subscribe. And if you have friends that that would be interested in our podcast, then definitely get them on board.
Wonderful.
We welcome additions and contributors. So we'd love to have you even to have a discussion with us on
Heal, Educate, Motivate.
Heal, Educate, Motivate.
Okay, so everyone, I just want to do a little shout out. The book Art of Love by Yasha Firuz, Keys of Enlightenment. And that book is primarily talks about the society's programming and how you can come on top regardless of how your current condition is. And the factor of enlightenment, meaning you have a better understanding of what you have now than before. It's not the concept of, I meditate for 10 years and get enlightenment. It's actually an epiphany or a new realization or a new education which you comprehended. All right, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next podcast.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for listening. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment your questions below. Stay tuned.